So today's lab, we're going to build a semi-permeable membrane. We're going to create an artificial cell. Okay, so we're going to make a cell out of something called dialysis tubing. And dialysis tubing is nothing more than some tube, some plastic that is cut on each end and is open. So we're going to tie it off with a string, and in there we're going to put some water, we're going to put some starch, and we're going to put some salt. Now this dialysis tubing has small little holes in it. So depending upon the size of the material, the water, the starch, or the salt, it may fit through the holes or it might not. Just like the chocolate chips may fit through or might not. The nerds might fit through or not. The flowers might not. Okay? It's a semi-permeable membrane. But now this is a physical size thing. It's based upon the size of the molecules. So what we're going to do is we're going to fill this with, we're going to put some water, starch, salt solution in there. We're going to tie it off, and what we're going to do is we're going to soak it in a beaker of water for 20 minutes. Now, we're looking at three things. We're looking at it's technically four things. We're looking, does water go through the membrane? Does water go in or does water go out? We are going to put this in water, but we're going to put iodine in the water. And iodine is something that we can use to test for starch. So then, if the starch and iodine come in contact with one another, it changes color. So we're going to put iodine water out here, and the idea is there's a test that we'll talk about these tests later, but if this changes color for the positive starch test inside, the iodine was able to go through. If we get a positive test starch on the outside, that means the starch came out. Same thing with the salt. We know there's salt in there. Did the salt come out? There's a test that we can do for that. So we're going to soak these for 20 minutes, and we need to make sure that we seal these relatively tight. Basic materials that we need is we need a piece of dialysis tubing. It's in here, it's soaking, it takes a little bit of effort to get these open. So if we grab a piece of dialysis tubing, it's sealed, it's closed. What works best is if we just take it between our fingers, and if we simply just rub it between our fingers, and the end opens up. And then we want to get this whole thing open, and it does start to dry out a little bit, so if it starts to dry out, get your fingers wet, and it should help the rest of the way. So now I have my dialysis tubing open all the way. If you need a hand, let me know. But again, just kind of dipping your fingers or the whole thing back in that bowl is kind of helpful. You're going to need two pieces of string. You take the one end and you twist it a couple times, kind of like a Tootsie Roll, and then you're going to tie this off. And I always think that if we go around one complete time, so I went all the way around, that it kind of helps close this up. Then we want to tie this closed. Ideally, we need two overhand knots. And if you don't know what an overhand knot is, the overhand knot is the first part of you tying your shoes, where you take your two strap loops and you loop them through, right? You take them, you cross them. If you do two of those, it's going to be a good enough knot. You want to pull that knot relatively tight so it doesn't leak, but you don't want to pull it so tight that it tears. So there's my dialysis tubing. Then we're going to go on a little ride. Camera, whee, looking at the sky. All right, so then back on this cart. Where's my cart? All right, there it is. I have a salt. This is the salt water starch solution. Give it a little stir. And the idea is you're just going to take this pipette, fill it up, and you're going to put about 4 pipettes full. So just fill it, squirt it, fill it. About 4 times. Okay, now I have some salt, starch, water solution, and now we got to seal the cell again. Some people I've seen they try to get it really, really close, like that. Okay, leave some space in your tubing. Just do it near the end. Twist it up. Again, we're going to tie it up. And an extra set of hands works really nice on this. Someone can hold the tubing while the other person does the tying of the strings. But okay, again, 2 overhand knots. And there's my dialysis tubing with my solution. The solution then needs to get soaked, and we're going to see if it gains mass, loses mass. Now, if we gain mass, where'd that mass probably come from? What went into this? Water. And if it loses mass, what came out of it? Probably was out of the three, what probably has the most mass, the water, the starch, or the salt? Water. Good, good. The water is going to have the most mass. So if it loses mass, it's because it lost water. So we need to find the mass of these. So on the 6 lab stations, there's a balance. At that one, there isn't. At this one, there isn't. You'll just have to jump over and share it. Before you do that, these tufts might have some salt starch solution that we don't want to contaminate our beaker with. So give this a little rinse under the sink, and then paper towel, gently dry it off. Okay? Then find the mass. Hit the 0 button. Those Petri dishes are meant, those glass dishes are meant to be there to try to keep our balance a little cleaner. Hit the 0 button, put it on there, find the mass, record it. On the back, data table. See where it says mass before? That's where you record the mass before you soak it. Okay? So then, once you found the mass and you recorded the mass, you put it in your beaker. It says warm water in the instructions. We don't have warm water in the entire school apparently right now. But 2, I want to use distilled water, not warm water. This is the water we're using. This is the water we're going to fill about half full. It says it on the board. That's about half full. About, good enough. Okay, then we want to put some iodine in it. The iodine, it says 20 drops. I'm going to be lazy and just say take a squirt, put 1 squirt worth of iodine in there. See, now it's kind of a yellowish water. Now we have iodine water. Then we start a timer and we let it sit for 20 minutes. Okay, once everyone's got their cells soaking, we'll talk about testing for the materials, but dialysis tubing, get it open. Again, as it starts to dry out, get your fingers wet a little bit. 2 pieces of string you need. Make sure you tie the end. About 4 squirts of starch, salt, water solutions. Tie the end. Rinse, dry, mass, record. Rinse the cell. Drop cell, right? This is a cell. Rinse the cell. Dry the cell, find the mass of the cell, and record it on your data table. So in 20 minutes, you're going to find the mass again, so you know did it gain mass or lose mass. And then in once everyone's set up, like I said, I'll talk through what's going on. Assuming we can handle talking from the lab stations, I'll let you stay there. If we can't, we can go back and sit in rows, and we can talk about it that way. But I think we'll be able to handle that. So. If you have questions on setting it up, let me know. This is the water we're using, about half. 1 squirt of iodine in your beaker, saltwater solutions over there.